The two phases that I see most organizations fail to pay attention to is that affirm stage, which, by the way, is the third of the 8 phases. So there's actually 2 before that, which would be interesting to explore. But that buyer's remorse, what are we going to do? And then the 5th phase, which is the acclimate phase. Now, the acclimate phase starts on the second day of them being in the property, being in the house, being in the apartment, and lasts for weeks, if not months, while they acclimate to this new living space. So you may be advocating, oh, guess what? We have a gym. And we have a gym in our apartment complex. And that's one of the amenities that we have. And that's why you should sign up. And we know that they're excited to sign the lease because they told us in the lease conversations, I'm excited that there's a gym. How quickly will they start using the gym? Most new residents will not use it in week 1. They won't use it in week 2 because they're still unpacking. They're getting things. Their back still hurts from carrying their boxes in. They're not going to go work out as well. So this thing that was the thing they were excited about, they're not even using. What are we doing to help acclimate them to the space? What are we doing to remind them that they're part of a community? What are we doing to reintroduce them to the amenities that seemed so interesting and exciting when they first moved in, to get them actually using them and experiencing the benefit? The research shows that you have 100 days. The first 100 days of the relationship are the most important time in the entire relationship. They are more dispositive as to the lifetime value, the retention, the overall satisfaction and joy that someone has with any purchase. It's all foundationally built in those first 100 days. As an owner, you should be thinking strategically and intentionally about what kinds of interactions are we having in the first 100 days to make the deposits in the karmic bank account so that if things go wrong, and by the way, they're going to go wrong. There's going to be issues. Welcome to owning property. Okay. If you want a career and a business and investment vehicle that does not have problems, do not get into real estate. Do not get into property. You're going to have it. So just acknowledge that. And instead of trying to hide from it, say, what can we do to lay that foundation in the first 100 days so that when things do go wrong, we're making withdrawals on the positive karmic bank account deposits that we made at the beginning of the relationship, as opposed to dealing from a deficit before we even get started.
That's good stuff. All right, so you teased this a little. You said there's 2 phases ahead, and I believe, I'm going off memory here, it's assess and admit. I could be wrong.
You are correct. Look at somebody did their homework. I like it. Brilliant.
Don't even have to edit it.
I love it.
You teased this. Let's talk about them.
Yeah. So the first phase, so there's 8 phases that we go through. The first phase is the assess phase. This is when a prospective resident is assessing whether or not they want to live in your property. They're checking out your listings. They're going to your website. They're probably coming and doing a tour. They might be meeting with a leasing agent. They might be trying to figure out, is there anybody else they know that lives in your complex or in your area who has ever rented from you before? That kind of thing. They're getting a feel. What we need to remember is, in the same way that we are assessing whether or not they're going to be a good resident or a good tenant, running their credit report, checking references, et cetera, they're assessing whether or not they should live in our space. They're looking at paying attention to how timely we are in our responses. They're paying attention to how much do you actually care about me as an individual versus pitching amenities that may or may not be of interest to me. If I move into a place and I say, hey, I travel all the time, I'm gone 3 weeks out of the month, this is really where I'm just going to keep my stuff on the 1 week that I'm here. Don't be pitching that you have a weekly wine and cheese night for residents, because I'm not going to be able to go to it 3 times out of the month. And the one time that I could go to it, I'm probably not going to be excited to go to it because I'm finally home for a week. I don't need to be out socializing and doing stuff. I might just want to relax or enjoy. So get clear on what they're actually assessing. We then come to phase 2, the admit phase. In the admit phase, the prospect admits that they have a want or a need that they think you're going to be able to help them with. They sign on the dotted line. They hand over that first deposit check. They transition from being a prospect to being a resident, even though they haven't moved in yet. And then right after that happens, literally as they've walked out of the office, they kick into phase 3, that affirm phase we were talking about earlier, that buyer's remorse stage where they begin to doubt the decision they just made. We're celebrating, we're high-fiving, we're ringing bells. Someone just won a trip to Napa. Everyone's excited that we rented the unit, that we sold the unit, whatever it may be. And meanwhile, our resident is thinking, I'm not really sure I made a good choice. We then come to phase 4, the activate phase, right? This is move-in day. Day 1, when they first actually show up on property. Now, it's not day 1 of the first 100 days. By the way, day 1 of the first 100 days starts the day they sign the lease. That's day 1. So this might be day 15, day 35, when they actually move in. And the question is, you've got 100 days to make it matter. What's been happening in that gap period between when they signed the lease and when they actually move in? Oh, for most owners, nothing. You've had no communication with them. You've just been like, oh, when we get close to your move-in day, show up in the front office and we'll have the elevator key for you. That is not a welcoming experience. That is going on autopilot. That is letting them sit in the doubt that they had this entire time. So those are the first 4 phases. And by the way, we've just gotten to move-in day, is that 4th phase. We then have 4 additional phases, but I'll pause here, Tom, if we want to spend any time on those first 4 phases, or you want me to quick go through the next
We're halfway there,
one.
man. We can
all right,
keep
we're
going.
halfway there.
I
Let's
rattle
finish
off all
strong.
8. I know it ends with advocate, and they're all A's.
I love it. Yeah, and they all start with the letter A, and the idea here is not to confuse anyone listening in, but the idea is if you get each of these phases right, it's like getting straight A's on the report card from your residents. They love you. They think you're doing a great job. So right after the activate phase, we move into phase 5, which I mentioned earlier, that acclimate phase. This is from the second day that they're living in your property, and it runs for weeks, even months, as they get used to your cadence, your way of doing things. Most owners think that once they've moved in, our job is done. We're good. We're all set. We just got to be reactive if something goes wrong. No, friends. We're halfway through the journey we want them to go on. We have to continue to be intentional about our interactions. In the acclimate phase, you got to hold their hand. You got to let them know that you're going to take care of them and show them the ropes of how your property works. How do they let you know if there's something that needs to be repaired? How do they let you know if they have a concern or something isn't working? How do they give you feedback on what's working well? It's not all just doom and gloom. What are they loving about being here? How can we double down into those relationships? We then come to phase 6, the accomplish phase. This is when the resident achieves the goal they had when they originally signed the lease and decided to become a resident. Now, most owners, guys, think that their goal is to move in. Friends, that's not their goal. Their goal is to live in a space that creates the personal life experience that they've desired, whether that's being closer to work, whether that's having the amenity of a pool on the property that they can use, whether that's having the extra bedroom because they've just brought a new child into the world and they want to have a separate bedroom for the kid, whether that's they want to live closer to their friends or their family members. Every single resident has a different goal that they're trying to accomplish. Our job as owners is to, number 1, know what that goal is. And number 2, track their progress towards that goal so we can celebrate with them when they accomplish the goal. Because if we forget to celebrate with them and acknowledge it, they'll probably forget what the goal was too. And now when it comes time to renew a lease, well, I never got what I was going for. Well, actually you did. You just forgot that that's what you were going for. And now the landscape changes. We then come to phase 7, the adopt phase. This is when they become loyal to you and only you. These are the folks that are calling you and saying, hey, I know the lease isn't set to renew for another 3 months, but can we just do the renewal now? I'd like to sign because I'm loving living here. This is great. These are the kind of residents we want, right? These are the ones we proactively want to lead into the renewal conversation. That's an adopter. They have adopted the relationship with you and they're fully bought in. And last, as you alluded to earlier, Tom, the 8th phase, the holy grail, nirvana, the advocate phase, where the resident becomes a raving fan singing your praises far and wide. The way you know you have advocate residents, these are the ones that are going on Google, are going on various review sites and proactively writing reviews about how much they love living in your property without you even needing to ask. They're the ones that are coming around and they see the sign that says, oh, apartment 7B is opening up and we're going to have a new apartment available, or, a tenant's left. And they're saying, oh my gosh, can I take some information to work? Because I've got a couple coworkers that live near here. They would love to live in this building too. We want advocates. The problem is almost every owner on the planet wants to go from assessing to advocating in about 2 or 3 days. That is a fundamental flaw. We don't advocate for things until we've had enough personal experience with them to put our own social capital on the line and say, this is the kind of place you want to live. No one's going to come to that conclusion in week 1, or probably even in month 1, or even month 3 or 4. They're going to have to see enough proof from you as the owner, as the property management or company. They're going to have enough of a feeling that you will consistently deliver as promised before they'll put their name on the line and tell their friends and loved ones, hey, you should come live here too.
If you like this video, check out the other relevant videos that can be found here.